Welcome, everyone. Hi, how do you do? I am Andrew Detres, your host. Just so you know, you can also follow us live on sportscaster101.com. Like us on Facebook at the page sportscaster101.com. And you can also follow us on Twitter at Micucci Sports. That's Micuccisports. Just so you know. Our huge headlines is that, first of all, you may know that the LA Clippers are making their first playoff appearance for a long time. So at the Staples Center, we have a bunch of basketball that's going to be going on. But not just that, we also have some hockey at the Staples Center. That's right, because LA Hockey has really rocked. They have just defeated the defending President's Trophy champions, the Vancouver Canucks, in 5 games. Also, today we'll discuss the future of Mariano Rivera. He tore his ACL in catching practice when he was trying to catch a fly ball. Will he return is the big question. Has not been released. And why did the New Jersey Nets move? I don't know. And what do you think? That's what we'll talk about. But right now, I'm going to welcome in my special guest, Vinny Micucci.
What's going on, Andrew? Thanks for having me on the show. How you been?
I've been great, Vinny, but I got to ask you, I mean, you do know that the New Jersey Nets have decided to move to New York, right?
Right.
So, I'm not sure what they were thinking. Do you think you know what they were thinking?
Well, they were presented with an opportunity. For a long time, there was a debate as to where exactly they would play. They eventually moved on over to the Prudential Center. But things just weren't moving as smoothly or as efficiently, I think, as the ownership wanted there. Their new ownership group came in, and as you know, Jay-Z is a part of that, the entertainer, and now he has decided that the team, along with the new ownership group also as well, an owner came over from Russia that took over, decided they wanted the team to move over to Brooklyn. They felt it would be more viable, a better chance to make money out of the process, maybe see a better chance to get free agents to come to Brooklyn. It's a shame because there is a long history in New Jersey with the Nets, but at the same time, there is somewhat of a bright future in just what the possibilities are for a team in Brooklyn.
You know, I think a good point, Vinny, is that it might be easier because the Barclays Center, which is going to be their new home for the next basketball season,
right,
actually connects with a subway station stop, Fulton Street, whereas the Prudential Center, you had to drive there or take whatever New Jersey Transit line took you there. And pretty much the same thing with the Izod Center.
Right. Well, the Izod Center was in the worst spot. That was difficult. All of the Meadowlands were very difficult to get to outside of driving. The Prudential Center did have a way to get there through New Jersey Transit. But at the same time, like you said, now there'll be incredible access over at the Barclays Center for the now Brooklyn Nets at this point. So I think that'll make it much easier for fans to get to. I think there'll be a certain level of excitement that'll be added to the fact that they've moved. There is a new arena, a new name. Maybe free agents are drawn to playing there now. It'll definitely be something now that will rival the Knicks. If you get a good Brooklyn Nets team, fans will be more willing, I think, to maybe jump on board.
Yeah, and especially because now you don't have to own a car to be able to get to the game. That's going to help the MTA increasingly. What I also want to talk about is, Vinny, I am very shocked that the Buffalo Bills were not the team that signed Kirk Cousins. I mean, I thought the Seattle Seahawks were going to want to sign a new quarterback during the draft until I realized that they had 3 quarterbacks, and the Bills only had 2. Kirk Cousins ended up becoming a Washington Redskin.
You know what, actually, I'm more shocked about is that the Redskins did sign Cousins. Now, they already had RG3, Robert Griffin III, taken with the 2nd overall pick, and it is very rare that a team takes 2 quarterbacks in the first 4 rounds, especially when they get maybe their franchise guy in the number 2 overall pick. That was a bit of a surprise to me. I'm wondering what they're going to do with Cousins. They're going to probably try to groom him a little bit, create some competition for Griffin, and then if he is as good as everybody thinks he is, maybe use him as trade bait for another team. But it is a very interesting selection. I am with you there, Andrew.
All right. Vinny, one other thing I am not sure. Do you think that Mario is done with the MLB for good, or do you think he will make at least one last appearance.
Well, Mariano Rivera has said that he will not go out this way. And Andrew, I know you and I have spoken about this on previous shows, that he is one of the all-time great closers, if not the greatest closer, and I think many people would agree with that statement. So you're talking about a guy that has had a great career, won World Series before, has the best postseason record, ERA, and everything else that you can imagine against the top teams. I don't think he wants this to be the lasting image. I think he's content on maybe what he's accomplished in his career, but I don't think he wants this to be the lasting image. So I imagine he's going to work out hard, train, try to come back. If it's not this year, which we don't anticipate, maybe at some point next year. I just don't think it'll be for too long. Perhaps even as much as just getting a final save and then calling it a career. That's how I imagine it might go.
So you think that if he is ruled not to participate in the rest of this season, that he will come back for the next season?
I think so, yes. I think he will try to come back and see if he can at least pitch, if not just for a little while, to try to get himself something under his belt before he calls it a career.
All right. One last thing, Vinny. You do know that the Grizzlies are playing the Clippers in the NBA playoffs, right?
Correct.
You also know that neither of these teams have ever won the NBA Finals before, right?
Right, of course. And that's what makes this kind of exciting, because it means somebody is going to move on at least to round number 2.
All right. But do you think that, based on the way things look, that someone who's never won the NBA Finals before is going to win this time? I mean, that happened last year with the Dallas Mavericks.
Right. I'm not so sure. I mean, right now I'm still going to stick with my feeling that the Miami Heat are the best team right now, and I think they face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the finals. I've said that months ago. I'm going to stick with it for now because it seems to still make sense. However, that means Oklahoma City, by the way, could be a team that could win for the first time. In this series, Memphis versus L.A., I'm not sure. I think that the Clippers have more firepower and potential. They have the star in Blake Griffin. They have the guard in Chris Paul to kind of lead them there. I'm not sure they have the depth, but I think they have the better chance to go deeper. I'm just not sure it's going to last too much longer, because the winner of this series most likely has to face San Antonio in round number 2, and that'll be a difficult task as well.
Imagine if that were the Grizzlies versus the Spurs. I mean, the Grizzlies won their first playoff game in franchise history last season by beating the Spurs in Game 1, and then they won all their games at home to clinch the series, and the crowd was rocking when those final seconds ticked off.
You're absolutely right.
What do you think would be the impression, according to the Spurs, if they were to have a chance at huge redemption?
Well, certainly, obviously, these teams want to go in and make a statement in any series that they play and let everybody at least show the rest of the fans around the league that they're not a pushover, because we tend to see that in the first rounds of the NBA playoffs just because the teams are so far apart. When the second round comes around, then it gets a little bit tighter and closer, and I think that'll be an opportunity for a team, especially like perhaps a Memphis, like you said, to make that kind of a statement. But to go deep in the NBA playoffs, you need to have young legs, especially this year, because the games were so tight and together because of the strike at the beginning of the season. Games were being played seemingly almost every night, so it's going to be the young, fresh legs that go deep in this playoff.
I know that's why you had your faith in Oklahoma City.
That's right.
But they won as the Seattle Sonics, right? The NBA Finals?
Do you know offhand? I'm not exactly sure. I have to look it up. I don't know if it was maybe in the 70s. I'll look it up for you. But anyway, that would be the first one as Oklahoma City, which I know Seattle fans are not too excited about.
Oh.
The fact that they're watching their former team now be this good in the postseason.
But I think it was a good move to go to Oklahoma City's side story because of how much more popular it is in Oklahoma City, and Seattle's not really a basketball city. Right.
And they did win one in 1979. I thought there was one in the 70s. I wasn't entirely sure. But yeah, 1979, the Seattle Supersonics defeated the Washington Bullets 4-1. How about that?
The team that we now know as the Wizards.
That's correct. So how do you feel about that? So all right, so there you go. You got your answer now. It would be the first one for Oklahoma City, but Seattle did win one.
Okay. Vinny, thank you so much. Coming up, we're going to run down in our top 5 MLB teams. And soon, we will have our final argument on the Andrew Detres Show.
You're tuned to the SportsCaster101.com podcast. Learn the tricks to become an announcer. Host your very own TV or radio show. Visit sportscaster101.com. Click on Shop and download classes from the comfort of your own home. sportscaster101.com. We teach vocal confidence.
Welcome back to the Andrew Detres Show. I am your host, Andrew Detres, and now we are going to break down my top 5 MLB teams. Just so you know, these aren't necessarily the best teams in the MLB, but they are some of the hottest in the league, at least for the moment. Let's start off with number 5. We have our defending World Series champions, Cinderella stories from last year. Give it up for your St. Louis Cardinals.
I tell you what, Andrew, the St. Louis Cardinals are a good choice for you, and at number 5, they are surprisingly still a very competitive team. I think the NL Central, in my opinion, one of the weaker divisions in baseball. I like Cincinnati this year, but boy, they've really overcome the loss of Albert Pujols. They're putting up runs. They're getting good pitching as always, and a nice choice for you at number 5.
Yeah, they've still been proven to be the one of the best teams in the league, and despite the fact that Albert, I'm sure he's starting to regret his move right now.
Well, he's not regretting the contract he signed, but yes, right now it's certainly been an issue in terms of being able to put some runs on the board in L.A.
All right. Well, now our number 4 team. This team has never won the World Series and was our last team in Canada, with the exception of the Toronto Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. That's right. This team was in Canada and then came here to our nation's capital. Give it up for your Washington Nationals.
Another good selection in at number 4. What I'm really impressed with the Nationals so far is how well out of the gate they've started. Steven Strasburg looks very strong. Bryce Harper, in his short time as a debut, has looked very strong. I think this is a good young team. They're going to rely on a couple of their veterans to get things going, but Davey Johnson is a solid manager, and we expect that the Nationals will hang around throughout the year.
All right. So now, this team has finished last year strong. I mean, you may not remember this, but last year, the last time the Marlins were the Florida Marlins, they played their final game at Dolphin Stadium. The Nationals spoiled their party, but they also had a significant hand by beating the Braves 2 out of 3 in their at the point biggest collapse, until the Red Sox a few hours later just created the biggest collapse.
Yeah, you're not kidding.
I mean, I was saying, side story, I lost my reign as biggest collapse ever, being a Mets fan. But that's
you were excited about that?
But that's another story. What I also want to say is that this team has been proven very good. They have Steven Strasburg. And now, let's take our number 3 team. A famous baseball club has not made the playoffs for the past few seasons, but looking much better. One of their players last year had an MVP season, and the only reason probably he didn't win the MVP was because he was ineligible to receive it because his club did not make the playoffs. So, I want to reveal who that is. And that is the Dodgers, the LA Dodgers.
This is an exciting pick at number 3, Andrew, because the Dodgers, to me, are, like you mentioned, they're a very historic franchise. But when they're good, it's exciting. You know, Vince Scully on the microphone. You have a good team. You have all the Hollywood actors hanging out around the ballpark watching the team play. And you just think blue. That's the sign they have out in left field, very similar to the Hollywood sign out in the hills. It's just a very enjoyable, relaxing atmosphere. And I think that it's a lot of fun when the Dodgers are a good team. I tend to root for them out in the West Coast as well, too. So. And they have Matt Kemp. Matt Kemp, probably the best player in baseball right now, the way he's playing.
Batting, anyway, not including the pitching.
Of course.
Okay, so we have it there. Now, our number 2 team has been a very good team in the past 4 seasons, with the exception of 2009. Last time they didn't make the playoffs was 2009. They clinched their first playoff berth in the history of their existence in 2008. They also had a hand in putting the Red Sox down as the greatest playoff run collapse ever. And that is your Tampa Bay.
Well, the Rays, the number 2 team right now, they are going to be fighting back and forth with who your number 1 team is, I think, throughout the entire year in the American League. This is a quality organization, and their pitching is right now their biggest strength. They're going to have to overcome Evan Longoria being out for a little while, but their pitching is their biggest strength.
I mean, I took a look at the standings, and they actually have the best record in baseball right now, and they are arguably the best team in baseball. Mm-hmm. They're really expecting to go a long way after spoiling the Red Sox party.
You're right. They're playing on that high from last year. That's absolutely right, Andrew.
Yes, however, regardless of it, how the thing turns out with the playoffs scenarios when come October, all I can reveal about our number 1 team is that if it's the number 1 team that Tampa Bay faces in the ALDS, they're going to have some serious bones to pick because they are the Texas Rangers.
That's right. And another good choice, Andrew, for your number 1 team. What I love about Texas is that they are head and shoulders above the rest of the league in offense and pitching. They're overcoming C.J. Wilson right now. They have some depth in pitching, and it makes a ton of sense that that's your number 1 team. I expect that they probably remain number 1 throughout the year. There's a good chance they go back to the World Series for the 3rd straight time.
That's true. This time, maybe they'll finally win it.
Well, yeah, that absolutely will have to be the changing factor in all of it. But baseball in Texas, it's usually by that time of year they've moved on to the Cowboys. But right now they're excited about that, and that's a good thing too.
Yeah, and they also have the Astros and such, but that's another story. Our final argument is that this team did not make the top 5 list. However, it can still not be argued that despite public controversy and a betrayal of someone to Miami, similarly what LeBron James did in the NBA, they have still been a great ball club throughout this entire season, and that is your beloved New York Mets.
Which I know you're excited about, and I'm glad that it's part of your final argument because if you think about it, they could be considered as one of your top-tier teams, except for the fact that right now many people, like you said, didn't come into the season high on them, and they still have their record. You know, they just came off of a tough sweep to the Houston Astros. That's not going to look good. But the fact is they're playing better than people thought, and that right off the bat, through the first month at least of the season, tells everyone that this team could make a push for the postseason.
I mean, maybe they'll be one of the last teams out. It looks like they're going to make the real improvements that they needed because last year they had a much bigger slump. I mean, the Astros are a much better team from the worst team that they were last year. Side story. But thank you so much for your time, Vinny. Too bad we couldn't keep you on the air for longer. And audience, just a reminder, you can like us on Facebook at sportscaster101.com, visit us at sportscaster101.com, or follow us on Twitter at Micucci Sports. We thank you for joining us. So long, everyone. On behalf of Vinny Micucci, I'm Andrew Detres. I just want to thank you so much for listening in. See you next time. Goodbye.